For me, it's a pleasure to be here, and I think most of us who have had the opportunity to listen to the proceedings this morning would agree that certainly, as one person said, we've certainly had food for thought. We're in this session looking at some of the priorities as we go forward. It stands at this point where we have undertaken a number of measures aimed at creating the platform for growth, opportunity, development, and prosperity. And so I'm pleased to be here today amongst representatives from various institutions and sectors, as together we consider the new economy for growth and prosperity. Antigua and Barbuda, like the rest of the world, has been rocked by the Great Recession. We know the narrative of our fiscal and economic history and the position in which the global economic crisis found us. Everyone under the sound of my voice knows the issues that compounded those circumstances, including the Stanford debacle, the interventions for the Bank of Antigua and ABI Bank, and the collapse of British American. Many have, at some point, seen or heard the data of our fiscal consolidation program and of how we have been able, with commitment to discipline and support from partners, to realize significant reforms. Now, that's the big picture. But what most people will remember, even as we gather to look ahead, is how they or someone close to them was personally impacted by the recession. We are seeing a turnaround after the storm and the need and opportunity for us to chart a new course. The thing people want to know when we talk to them is, what are we doing about the economy? And what is their place in it? And what are the prospects for them and their loved ones? And that's one of the reasons why we're here today, to continue the dialogue, the participatory democracy that has been a hallmark of this administration. Our chief priority is putting people first. But for the coming year, as we have made the gains and strides that we have on our fiscal consolidation program, our main priority is focusing at this time on the economy. And so since 2004, we have pursued policies and programs to ensure the economic and social development of Antigua and Barbuda. These policies and programs have focused on creating a new and stable fiscal environment. Further, the administration has set a strong platform for economic development by ensuring more prudent public financial management. When public finances are properly managed, a country's credit rating is improved. In addition, sound fiscal management creates certainty and engenders confidence in the private sector and amongst investors. This means investors and businesses can plan effectively and reliably. They can forecast their returns on their investment, since they will not be subject to arbitrary changes in taxation policy. The fiscal consolidation program and the technical support received from our regional and international partners over the past few years have all helped to improve the fiscal position in Antigua and Barbuda. We've achieved this in partnership with the people of Antigua and Barbuda, using our collective grit and determination and calling upon our indomitable spirit that leads us to do nothing less than to rise after falling. Even when the measures taken weren't popular, I am confident that everyone endowed with a sense of patriotism, the people who understand what nation building calls for, they know that they were the correct measures. As I've said repeatedly, we were called upon to save ourselves, and together we have turned the corner. Therefore, our focus in 2014 will be to ensure that the fiscal gains are safeguarded and the fiscal stability is maintained. This will be done by enhancing institutional and administrative arrangements in the government agencies responsible for revenue administration and expenditure management. That is, the Inland Revenue Department, Customs and Excise Department, and the Treasury Department. One of the objectives of the interventions in these agencies will be to improve the public's interface with the revenue agencies and Treasury by increasing the use of information and communication technologies. Another priority for the government will be to ensure that the tax system is supportive of private sector development, whilst at the same time protecting the overarching objective of fiscal stability. The policies and programs undertaken by this administration over the past few years could be likened to a farmer preparing his land, tilling the soil, removing any weeds and rocks that would impede the growth of the crop, adding fertilizer, introducing irrigation systems, and planting the seeds. The seeds that we planted have begun to develop, and Antigua and Barbuda is beginning to reap the fruits of this administration's efforts. We will continue to cultivate the land and nurture the crop in preparation for the harvest. While fiscal stability will remain a priority, it will serve as the foundation for the broader policy objectives of the government, which are economic growth and social development. This means a harvest of strong economic growth, job creation, improved services for all citizens and residents, and enhanced social programs for the most vulnerable in our society. In terms of social development, the government will focus on strengthening our social programs and introducing a number of new programs. Employment and training programs include the new Work Experience Program, which is already underway, targeting 500 Antiguans and Barbudans for skills development and apprenticeships. We're also in the process of implementing the Government Employment and Training Opportunities Program. This initiative has financial support from the World Bank. It will offer employment and training opportunities to about 1,000 Antiguans and Barbudans between the ages of 17 and 50 years old. Then there's the Enterprise Achievement Challenge, the EACH program, intended to empower the youth and single mothers by creating employment and training opportunities. The government's growth agenda going forward will involve a mix of public and private sector funded projects that will create jobs and stimulate economic activity. In 2014, the government will begin to implement a number of projects under the National Development Fund. The purpose of this fund is to generate and provide resources for projects that will improve domestic infrastructure, support small businesses, encourage the involvement of youth in agriculture, and implement the land development and housing programs which have already been announced. The National Development Fund will be financed with resources generated through the Citizenship by Investment program and with the proceeds from issuance of government securities, including a diaspora bond. In 2014, it is anticipated that 100 million EC dollars will be allocated to the NDF, the National Development Fund. The government will utilize these resources in a number of priority areas, including infrastructure development, especially roadworks, development of primary healthcare facilities in key communities, retrofitting and upgrading public schools, renovation of historic sites, implementing a reef marking project to expand the charter boat business, financing a youth in agriculture development initiative, construction of a storage and agri-processing facility, financing a youth entrepreneurs program, enhancing the small business credit guarantee scheme, and developing a microfinance program to support micro businesses, and land development and a housing program, including a mortgage subsidy program. The government will also ensure that the implementation of key capital projects is intensified. In an effort to encourage domestic and foreign investment, the government is in the process of enacting sunset legislation entitled the Tourism and Business Special Incentives Act 2013. The purpose of this intervention is to encourage domestic and external investors to invest in Antigua and Barbuda. And since tourism remains the key foreign exchange earner and the main source of employment for our people, whether direct or indirect, this legislation provides significant concessions to encourage investment in tourism. The need to incentivize private investors is particularly evident given the remaining uncertainty in international financial markets. Also, the inherent risk aversion of investors in the face of lingering uncertainty demands some policy intervention that would reduce the cost of doing business and to help increase the likelihood of a greater return on investment. This sunset legislation will provide more generous concessions to investors than what they would normally receive through the provisions of the Antigua and Barbuda Investment Authority Act. The greater scope and value of concessions offered are expected to trigger an increase in investment by domestic and foreign investors over the 2-year span of the Tourism and Business Special Incentives Act. In order for this policy intervention to boost economic activity, the investments would need to take place within the time frame of the sunset legislation. Eligibility for reduction of waiver of any or all of these taxes will depend on the size of the investment. The nature of the business may be tourism-related or other businesses, including manufacturing, information and communication technology, financial services, health and wellness, agriculture, fisheries, and agribusiness, the creative industries to include music, film, television recording and production, photography, publishing, arts and crafts, and photography. And finally, energy and green technologies. This initiative will help to attract new investment to Antigua and Barbuda and will offer further incentives to a number of existing investors to expedite implementation of a number of projects that have been in discussion for some time. A multi-million-dollar project that will benefit from the provisions of the Tourism and Business Special Incentives Act is, of course, the Beaches project. The government has concluded negotiating a memorandum of agreement with Sandals Resorts International, and only just a few moments ago, we signed the memorandum of agreement with the chairman of Sandals and Beaches Resorts, Mr. Gordon Butch Stewart. This memorandum will be incorporated within the framework of the Tourism and Business Special Incentives Act. And we're happy to announce that the Beaches project will be the first project that will benefit from this new legislation. The expansion of the existing Grand Pineapple property in Long Bay to a high-end beaches resort will see the existing facility transformed into a 4.5-star operation. The new section of the property will be a 5-star facility. This investment of some US $150 million will triple the employment currently in that property, the pineapple property, from 180 jobs to over 700 jobs. Also, in addition, during the construction phase, we expect to have at least another 250 jobs. The new beaches facility will boast a number of firsts. These include an ice skating rink and rock climbing, in addition to the 125 new family suites, a water park, and a comprehensive program for family entertainment. The government-owned land adjacent to the existing property has been identified for the additional land required for the new development. The government has welcomed the proposed investment, and we have indicated a very clear commitment to concluding arrangements to have the land made available for the expansion project and to enable the start of construction in the shortest possible frame of time. With regard to concerns about existing vendors on the land, I want to state, and I know I can speak also on behalf of the investor, Mr. Stewart, when I say that neither the government nor the Sandals Group have any intention of adversely affecting the livelihoods of the vendors who ply their trade there. And every effort will be made to ensure that there are appropriate facilities so that this activity can continue in keeping with the highest standards required by a country offering hospitality as its main industry. I also wish to put to rest any fears with respect to access to the beach and to assure everyone that the policy in Antigua and Barbuda will continue whereby Antiguans and Barbudans will continue to have access to Long Bay, as they have access to Dickinson Bay at present. I'm happy to say that Sandals has indeed become known as a flagship here in Antigua, and we do not expect that the beaches project at Long Bay will be anything less than this magnificent edifice where we are currently having this meeting. We are looking forward to something of similar or even higher quality. And so the government is pleased to having concluded this agreement with Mr. Stewart, and it now gives me great pleasure to invite the Honorable Gordon Butch Stewart to make a presentation on the project and his perspectives on Antigua and Barbuda and the way forward with respect to investment in this country. And I know that the CEO, Mr. Adam Stewart, will also be adding to that presentation. So we now invite Mr. Gordon Butch Stewart and then Mr. Adam Stewart, who will be explaining the project in further detail.
Good afternoon. And I hope that all protocol has been observed. Mr. Prime Minister, ministers, today is a great day, I think, certainly for Sandals, and I hope very much for Antigua. I have a little bug in my throat, so if it gives a little trouble, bear with me. This afternoon, as the Minister just said, we inked an agreement which has been a long time coming. I believe that this is the beginning and the start of a lot of good things to come. Before getting there, I'd just like to spend, Prime Minister, if you allow me, a few moments, a little bit of history, because Antigua was the first island that we came to from Jamaica. But Jamaican, we started in Jamaica, and Antigua was the first island that we started in 1991. It's been an extraordinary process, a process of learning, because when we came here, we didn't even know how to plan. Meaning, in Jamaica, you need a pickup load of oranges, you pick up the phone, call a fella down the road, and you get the oranges that afternoon, for example. In Antigua, you had to learn to plan. A lot of stuff had to be imported. So, in so many ways, Antigua has helped Sandals. It has helped Sandals as our first overseas destination. We have been very well known for Sandals in Antigua. But I think more importantly, I view today as a historic achievement. You know, this hotel, this site, has had a lot of history. I believe the signing of the Chacoramas Agreement was done at the Anchorage, which is Sandals, Antigua, back in 1973, I believe. The Chacoramas Agreement was the forerunner of CARICOM. There were a lot of ambitious aspects to that agreement, some of which I'll try and deal with in this little discussion. I think more importantly, Sandals has become a trans-Caribbean organization. We're Caribbean-wide. I think we do our fair share of promoting the Caribbean and training the people that make up our staff, more so than I believe any other group of companies in the region. I'm talking about overseas brand names, etc. What is important to us with this agreement is the same way it has taken some fearless political decisions as taken in Grenada with the concessions that Sandals got there, with a resort that's about to open on the 21st of December this month. That we started construction end of last year, but primarily this year. And it really is the Sandals of tomorrow that we're doing there. It's tremendous. I think the minister underestimated a little bit the workforce. In Grenada, as we talk right now, there are 1,400 workers on the site. Beaches Antigua, they're a bigger resort. So I dare say probably have more workers on the site. In Grenada, we have 5 main contractors, all Grenadian. We have about 20 or 25 subcontractors. As I say, made up of 1,400 people. The project manager, don't hold it against him, but he comes from Trinidad. The whole project is that showing the Caribbean at its best. The quality coming out is tremendous. That agreement was transparent, every aspect of it. The concessions are deep, which I'll address afterwards. The same goes for Barbados. We made an agreement in Barbados a couple of months ago. Transparent, 100%. It's the only way for the future. It's the only way we can deal. And I had no difficulty because your government here wanted absolute transparency. So, many of us in the hotel sector have felt for a long time that the benefits of concessions keep going to the wrong people. And by that I mean the cruise ships that come here pay very little tax, if any. And it is the taxes from the hotels that even have to pay the people to clean up the garbage left behind with the cruise ships. It's not the cruise ship's fault. I think it goes back pretty close to 35, 40 years ago, where the word export, excuse me for just 1 second. The word export became a diluted mishmash of various governments and political forces wanting to tax anything that moved, and even the dead. For many years, if you take a look at the growth of the cruise ship industry, it's been like this, then it's like that, and now it's like this. The same corresponding period, if you take a look at development, hotel development in the region, it was like this, then it became this, then it's like this. I'm a believer. The people that disagree has to do with taxation. Because, and I've said it many times, I think when it comes to the Caribbean, the chain of islands, the water that you look, that devastates people when they see it, they can't believe how beautiful it is. And I've said it before, but I honestly believe that the Almighty spent more time in the Caribbean when he was putting things together than the rest of the world. It's not only with the waters and the things that the waters offer, but with the people. We are the richest people by nature. Any breed, we're all the same. You could be Dominica, even Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica. We're all the same. We all have the same needs, have the same wants. We want the best for our children. You hope to have happy marriages. But we're all the same. Church going in most part. Look out for each other, again in most part. However, when you take a look, take 1991 with the Gulf War. That was the first dip. That was when hotels started discounting. Prior to 1991, if everybody wants a price, say to me, Butch, give me a good discount. As a tour operator, I would laugh after them. After 91, I was happy to give them a good discount. In 2001, the discounts escalated to the point where you weren't too sure if you could make money or not. And 2008 took the cake. There was a period in time that most of us didn't know whether we were going to have to find gold to trade, foodstuff to trade, or go back to the days of I have materials to trade or vice versa, whatever. But the world got a shock because there was a period of time that nobody knew if the world economy could be maintained. Talk about discounting after that. Tourism is a perishable item. When there's nobody in the hotel, you sell it for any price to get people in the hotel. Because you need cash. If you're even losing money, you lose less money with deep discounts. More so, borrowing money, period, has become harder and harder. Since 2008, the best of the best could not borrow money from the banks. I don't care what business you had. At a time when a bank would say to you, Butch, if you need any help, just call me. When 2008 came, they didn't even want to answer the phone. You say, is that the same number, the right number? Along with all of that, the capital cost to build a hotel is out of the ball ground. The cost of building any hotel, when people talk about $100 million, $50 million US dollars, 150, 200, this is He-Man money. This is the size money that you can only dream about. And there are none. There are no developers that can come in and spend $100 million without having a bank as a partner. Does not work. I take off my hat to the government of Antigua. From the time we have been here, we have always had good relations. We have had good relations with who is the opposition now and the then government. We have had good relations with the government of today, and so too when there were opposition. But I guess more so than that, we've even had good relations with the unions. Where's Mr. Chester? I expect better treatment after today. So, how can you expect a developer to come to the Caribbean, build the shining castle that everybody is sending people into the marketplace to bring these foreign investors, without making it attractive and providing at least the assurance that they've made a deal in a faraway place called Antigua that will allow them to pay back the bank? I want to just trace a few things. Urban Resorts no longer is, since '08. My main competitor, who will be nameless, is down to about 10 or 15%. We bought the Four Seasons Resort in Exuma in '09, when nobody was buying anything and a lot selling, because it had gone into receivership. With the great brand, Four Seasons brand, after spending, the developers, $500 million, a Greg Norman golf course, championship, incredible, on a piece of real estate to die for. They built a hotel, championship tennis, and a marina. And we went in there and we bought the main parts of the development, namely the golf course, the marina, and the hotel, for $25 million. We didn't buy it from the government. We bought it from PricewaterhouseCoopers. We won the tender. And everybody said, boy, they got a deal. Yeah, we did get a deal. We got a deal at a time that gold had no value, that there was no value for anything. You could buy anything. I mean, let's take it a step further. Atlantis, which has been the flagship of Nassau and the Bahamas for so many years, was taken over by the bank. And Mr. Kurtzner regarded it as a tragedy, because Mr. Kurtzner, who I believe is one of the most creative people that has invested in the Caribbean, the product, you only have to look at it, and you're in awe. The size, the finish, the dimension, the creativity. And he became the manager instead of owner for easily a $2 billion investment. These are the times that we're in. This island has suffered from Clico, the downfall of Clico. I've stayed at a distance and I watched the pain that I've seen around, and I know the devastation that it caused. Mr. Stanford employed a lot of people here, brought a lot of money here, did a lot of things, and that fallout is enough for many islands to disappear, literally. And yet Antigua that if my memory serves me right, I think at one stage went as badly as 125% of debt to GDP. And in the roughest of times have been able to bring that debt down to 90 or 95%. As an investor, that's what I look for. I look for stability, places with solid democracies, economies that can sustain the money that I have to borrow to pay back, and I don't hope to pay it back. I will pay it back. I have never made an arrangement with any bank in any way, shape, or form, and not kept that arrangement and beyond. I've never, and I come from the old-time school that if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And if it is something really unfortunate and somehow you can't do it, you say to a man, I promise to do it, but something has happened and I can't do it. But that kind of behavior is the behavior that has allowed my company to have the trust with the bankers that we deal with. We've been able to go through the worst of times, 91, 2001, and 08. And instead of pulling back, because for those here that observe in the tourism side of things, the foreign trade side of things, anything, you would have noticed that when 08 came, the same as in 2001 and the same as in 91, instead of us pulling back, we put our foot on the gas. This year alone, we opened another hotel in the Turks and Caicos. We took over a failed project next door. We took the fence down. We took it over, we spent a lot of money because it was a really nice luxury apartment building. But condos can't really cook enough food and provide the services that a full-blown resort like this needs. We'll open Grenada on the 21st of this month, and we took over Armand Casarino in Barbados last month or the month before. So we have had 3 openings this year. And we don't plan to turn back. The same 4 seasons that I tell you about in Exuma. When we took it over, the hotel was 4 years old. It was badly run down. The golf course had more weed than grass, and so too the gardens. It had a swimming pool that couldn't work for Sandals. So the process of sandalizing that hotel began almost immediately. Today, the main swimming pool rivals this one here. Sorry, PM, but it's true. The hotel that had 2 restaurants now has 8. Every one better than the other. When it comes to work permits, even though Exuma had a very small labor pool, the work permits that we needed to get were primarily food and beverage, because if it's an Italian restaurant, I need an Italian chef. If it's jerk pork, I need a Jamaican or Antiguan chef. If it's a Chinese restaurant, I need a Chinaman. And if it is an English pub, I need an Englishman. Simple as this, the bangers mash, the shepherd's pie, the British make it best. So work permits are something that as a regional company that understands the Caribbean, the nature of the folks that make up the Caribbean, our work permit needs, expatriate needs, are small. Small by more than 60 or 70% with the typical flags that could come in. And we are proud of that. We're not only proud of that, we are proud of our staff training, because we feel we do the best. We are proud of our management training. And you can see the management coming up. And look at the people at the top of the company. Where did they come from? And these days, for the last 2 years, and your Prime Minister was good to come to the opening, was a corporate university on job training. Adam will talk a little bit more about it. That's his baby. The point is, until, and I think Michael Manley was one of our great, great leaders, and a lot of people probably still remember him. Michael Manley said at the, now you have to understand Michael's background, he wasn't the biggest lover of tourism. But during his time in opposition, he saw a new light. And I think just as important, he saw the light of the way to pay his way forward with the country of Jamaica that was struggling. But Michael said it at the heads of government meeting in St. Kitts in 1989. He said, if you put a tax on the banana, you will not sell a single hand. I don't know why people believe and governments believe that you can have an unlevel playing field and yet expect people to invest, and by not investing and not renewing the product and not modernizing the product and not putting a product that Antiguans, for example, would love, because it's only when you love it that the people from overseas are willing to come to share that with you. If you're going through pain, nobody wants to share it with you. You're going through success, everybody wants to share it with you. So I think you will find that this agreement and the ones, they're not only bold, politically, they're very bold. Two, I believe you will find people saying, well, that may be a government that has respect for the developers. And let's face it. Let us face it, if you take a look at the Caribbean, island by island, how much quality development have you seen in the last 10 years? Hotels. Very, very few. How many new cruise ships have you seen? A lot. Adam showed me a picture the other day of the new, is it Carnival or Royal Caribbean? Royal Caribbean. Their new ship. Up against the illustration, the Titanic. And the new cruise ship made the Titanic look like the lifeboat in size. It's extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. So beyond that, I don't know how, if tourism is an export, and exports are clearly defined, produced by one country to sell to another country. Now, I know there are generous people in France, the United States, England, and Japan, for example. But I don't know of anybody that want to buy a basket of taxes that the government of Antigua or Bahamas feel like putting on their product, calling it export, trying to get visitors to come and stay with them. because they have enough taxis in Paris. They don't need to buy them. They have them for free. And the same goes to New York, and the same goes everywhere. I believe that this process is the only single way to motivate quality developers. I go further. You've been investing your money, Mr. Prime Minister, in the wrong place. If you consider concessions an investment, it's the wrong place. Because you don't own one bedroom or cabin on a cruise ship. And yet when they come down the road, they're entitled to pay not very much, if any. But you own every single bedroom in this hotel. In Jamaica, they have a saying, who knows what the jonker is? It's our vulture. The jonker is our famous vulture in Jamaica. And Jamaicans have a saying, jonker, look after and pick me first. If you don't look after yours first, and you cannot blame the cruise ships, because they're only good business people. I, in fact, admire the cruise ships as a hotelier very, very much, because they have taken advantage of concessions and possibilities, and they've made the most out of it. They've built empires. Royal Caribbean, Carnival, these are empires that 35 years ago didn't even really exist. I want to thank the folks in this room and the government. Sandals has been around for 32 years now. And we have been here for 22 or 23 years. Thank you. Sandals started the year that Adam was born. But I want to thank you, because a more hospitable country would be hard to find. The stability, the stability of this island, I consider it rock solid. No one in the Caribbean can change your 360 beaches. They're there for the making. They're there to take advantage of. So why? Why don't you have these incredible developments coming out of the ground? Everywhere there's a golden beach, white sand beach. Why is there a Barbuda only has some very nice, smaller hotels? You're going to find in 5 years' time, you're going to say to yourself, why didn't we do these deals 20 years ago? That boils down to tax. If you borrow money from the bank and you need to borrow it, if you're going to put up a hotel, that the only thing that the hotel represents on one side is capital costs. Cash, big money. So if you can't pay the bank back, why do you start borrowing the money to start with? And what has happened to us in the Caribbean? Every time a government starts getting into trouble, they put up the tax a little more. Some countries get to the point where they put up the tax to the point where the citizens can't pay the tax. They're not earning enough money to pay the tax. So what do we all need? An injection of new hard currency. A country that does not have an export business cannot survive. And we need to go back to the old days. PM, if I'm giving you a lecture, I don't mean to. It's just a way of saying thank you. If we don't go back to the days of export, academics that know nothing about tourism, a lot of them, relate export to a ship on the horizon with the smoke coming out of the stack, shipping the bananas or sugar cane. That's export. Reverse export, where people are coming off of an aeroplane with money in their pockets to not only pay for the hotel, but to deal with the same vendors, the different shops. It's too simple for a big brain to comprehend. But that's the future. It is the future. I do have a complaint. Your Minister of Finance, Mr. Lovell, I have never come across somebody so persistent. In the middle of the night, when I finished dinner, the telephone rang. I said, who the hell is that now? Hi, Chairman. Minister, how are you doing? When you're coming to Antigua. He's relentless. The Prime Minister here went to dinner, and every time I see him, he thunders. We want beaches here. Thunders to the point where I quail and say, boy, if I don't please this man, he's going to beat me up. It's twice my size. Prime Minister, I want to thank you, all the people with you in this room and out of the room. I want to thank the people of Antigua. I really want to thank you for treating me as well as you've treated me over the last 22 or 23 years. I could not have asked for better. There were times I didn't make any money, but I didn't complain. And you still got your taxes. It's been a dream relationship. You have a fabulous country here, made up of fabulous people.
That's right.
And I want to thank you very much. And I hope that our development, and we'll see to it, makes a mark that will benefit the wider communities. As it's only through the development of export money and hard currency that you're going to be able to pass the money on for government to do the things they want to in school, to pass the money on for people to live to higher standards. And not only that, tourism, the Treaty of the Chacaramas, started dealing with Caribbean integration. They started dealing with all the elements that showed each island is a neighbor of the other and the goodwill that you need. Sandals has demonstrated that. We're now in 7 islands. 7 countries and nine islands, actually. The Bahamas, we have 3 and 3 different islands. We have demonstrated that. But we have also demonstrated it with people across the region that have extended their help in so many different ways, at every time. I went to Grenada, and I was trying to get a good lawyer. I ended up with Jimmy Bristol. What an incredible lawyer I ended up with, purely by luck. And a good friend recommended him to me. But I think more and more we need to look down the road. I think, Minister, you're in good shape. The economy seems to be getting, it has stood the test. No, maybe. And I think more and more, if you can stimulate export, everybody in this room is going to benefit. The traders will benefit. They'll employ more people. the dollar will run around, people will have bigger televisions in their room, and the list will go on and on. That's what it's all about. I want to thank you again, and thank you very much.
It's very kind of all you to stand for me. I appreciate that. Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Minister Lovell, Cabinet Ministers, Members of Parliament, friends of Antigua, media, I'd like to thank our chairman for keeping it very short and brief. Minister, let me tell you the problem with tax in this country. I'm only kidding. The beaches concept for a long time. Antigua to our family, and when I say family, it's not if you have the last name Stewart, the team members of Sandals and Beaches Resorts. This country is very emotional for us. I was 10 years old when we came here. I worked on the construction site, good child labor, driving a golf cart around that we took over from Divi. When we got here, we had 6 hotels. In Jamaica. This made our 7th hotel, where we had just, during the construction phase, had opened Sandals Duns River, which was the 6th hotel. Today we stand at 24 hotels across the Caribbean, being the largest private sector company employing over 12,000 people, Caribbean nationals, right throughout the Caribbean, the 7 Caribbean islands. I think a lot of people look at our organization and say we have it all figured out. And the reality is that we absolutely do not have it all figured out, and we're not a perfect company. But what we are is vested. We're from the Caribbean, and we truly believe ourselves as a trans-Caribbean company. We have nowhere to go. If you kick us out of Antigua, we hop to the next island. You kick us out of Barbados, go to Jamaica, but we certainly can't go anywhere but the Caribbean. And the only way we know how to evolve this company, and have been evolving, is to outdo our last project, and to just continue to escalate and take things to a higher and higher level. If you look at the Caribbean Village, or what we bought here in 1990, opened in 1991, and you look at it today, and the consistent evolution and investment in this property, people like Ezra and so many that have been here from the very, very start, you see things evolve. In 2007, we opened this Mediterranean Village, which at the time was the single largest investment our company had made. And we sit there after the project and we say, how do you make it better? And then we moved on to Turks and Caicos Beaches, Italian Village in 2009. 2-bedroom suites, water parks, things that really make children fall in love with the product, so they go back to their school and tell everybody in their school that they went on the best vacation possible, and that they're cooler than the next kid, and then the next kid tells his parents, and they nag the parents, and the mother goes home and nags the father. And between the father and the grandparents, somebody finds some money to send them on holiday. But that effectively is the business model right there. And what we want to do here is make everybody in this room incredibly proud. We're well aware of the situation with the beach vendors. Sandals could never have gotten to where it got today without people and team members being behind us at every level. And I want to assure everybody that on behalf of the board of Sandals, our chairman and the entire team, we're going to do good by these beach vendors. As a matter of fact, I could flip it the other way and say they will make more money, far, far more money, when this hotel opens than they will today. So what we're looking to do, and again, it is somewhat of a blank piece of paper at this point in time, but we have a very good idea of what we want to create. Is in 2 phases. To start, 280 rooms and suites, primarily suites. An additional 60 behind that in phase 2, which will come right behind it. You'll be looking somewhere around 12 restaurants, a water park with the lazy river, lots of water slides, 8, 9, 10 water slides. We have an affiliation with Xbox. We'll have an Xbox game arcade, a BMX bicycle track, a movie cinema. You heard about the ice skating rink, which is a bit of an engineering feat, but one of our favorite things to do is give things to engineers. And then when they look at us with those faces that they don't know how to figure it out, we say to them, look here now, you have your problems and we have our problems. We'll figure it out. And the list goes on and on. Food and beverage is a major component. Scuba diving is a major component. We're the only company in the Caribbean that can put an 8-year-old child in a pool and teach them how to scuba dive. It's called a Paddy Bubble Maker program, and then they graduate from there and go on to the SEAL team. Next year marks our 10-year anniversary with Sesame Street. Sesame Street is the largest non-for-profit education foundation in the world. And our sponsorship of Sesame Street is what pays for them to be published on television, so children all around the world can learn about education. Everything that we do with these characters, if it's reading with Elmo, it's reading outside. It's become a very digital world. We're trying to keep it organic and natural. Cooking with Cookie Monster, zero trans fats. The list goes on and on. It's fantastic. Our Camp Sesames, where we take children's or nurseries. So you take children, we're the only company, no cruise line, not even Disney, will take a child under 2 years old that's not potty trained. We will take them right up so parents can go on date night together, have some of the nice premium alcohol, and hopefully have more children and come back year after year. As a matter of fact, that's exactly how Sandals started, where people came year after year and they fell in love with the product and they wanted something for families. And in 1997, our regional director, Mr. Jeremy Jones, was one of our very first general managers at Beaches and Grill. I used to work for him, and it's funny how the world evolves. It's a good thing he was kind to me at the time. And in those days, to be truthful, the kids would come in and it was a Sandals, and we gave them some coloring books and said, look here, man, come out of the way and get these children out of here. But by listening to the child, and it's all about the child, and I'm sure many in here have children or have family that, you're probably grandparents. It's that emotional connectivity. These days, people are having to work, some of them 2 and 3 jobs to be able to afford these vacations. We sell a leisure product. It's a product that people can live without. You have to be better than the next best person. Minister, just a correction. I don't know of any project that we have done at 4.5 stars out of 5 or 6 anytime recently. This will be a solid 5-star, and there'll be a village within it that will actually strive to have a 6-star village, putting Antigua more and more on the map as a luxury destination. Our chairman spoke briefly about our corporate university, and if I could just speak on that. It's actually not my baby. It is Mr. Wayne Cummins' baby. Wayne has been with us. He's one of our most senior directors in Jamaica. Wayne actually worked in Antigua in the beginning. Wayne has been in the company for 24 years. And when Sandals is approaching its 30-year mark, we sat down as a company and said, what would be the most impactful thing that we could do? And of course, you get the PR team that come in and they say, well, we should have a big party and we should bring celebrities down and have fireworks and remind everybody that this little Caribbean company got to 30 years old. And then there was a whole different track that sat there and said, how did we get to 30? We got to 30 by people believing, by people taking what could be, today as a buzzword, it's called vision, and bringing it to life. And the Honorable Prime Minister was with us, with the other Prime Ministers across the Caribbean, when we incorporated the Sandals Corporate University and launched it. The Sandals Corporate University, in effect, all of our resorts are a campus. All of our resorts have training and development classrooms. And then we work with some of the biggest and best internationally recognized universities like Ryerson in Canada, Florida International, Johnson & Wales. There's over 12 of them. And we fuse together our practical on-the-ground training, and they are theoretical. And what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, and you all know these stories of people that have what it takes inside. They have the spirit and the soul, but they just never had the financial ability to take and get the best out of themselves. The corporate university is designed to maximize and get the most out of people. We have people that come to our hotels for employment that cannot read and write. And turning them away, we feel fundamentally is the wrong thing to do. We believe it is our duty as a Caribbean company to train them and develop them, and if they want to go on to get their doctorate, they can go on to get their doctorate, and it will be completely underwritten by this company, Sandals Resorts International. So it has been a very, very busy year for us. Turks and Caicos, as our chairman said, Barbados last month, Grenada in 20 days. Grenada, as he said, we have 1,403 builders. There are 25 people that are non-Grenadian nationals on that construction site. The government asked us to spend $20 million in the first tranche, and because of these same incentives, This is going to be an $80 million investment. It's an engineering marvel. There'll be pools on the balconies of the 5th floor, the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, the ground floor rooms. We'll have pools that will go into them, and that is the DNA of this organization. How do we outdo ourselves to the last project? So when those people come here, when those people that worked their entire year come to our resort, their jaws hit the ground, and they fall in love with the product, and then the warmth of the Caribbean keeps them coming back. And you guys not romantic at all. There's some romantic things we're dealing with there. I would just like to say personally, on behalf of the Sandals team and myself and my dad, a second thank you to everybody in Antigua. You, in many ways, this country was what gave us that ability, that belief to go beyond. At the time, I was a young tot. But the stories, I just remember sitting on balconies listening to people say, you're really going to go to Antigua, you're really going to try this. It really had not been done in Caribbean tourism as a trans-Caribbean. And the good things that happened in Antigua is what has allowed us to become the largest in the Caribbean today, and we are hugely grateful for the support that this country has given us. And lastly, we will, in the next coming months, 2-3 months' time, we'll start to produce some renderings, working with our architects and our design teams. You're going to see 1-bedroom suites, you're going to see 2-bedroom suites, you're going to see 3-bedroom suites, 4-bedroom suites, butler suites. You're going to see things for children that are going to blow their minds. And I promise you, on behalf of our company, we will build the world's best Caribbean family vacation, that second to none Prime Minister, that anybody can build, and we will make this country very proud. Thank you very, very much.